Jim, thanks for chatting with me today.
Hi, Aaron. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. I was curious with Fackham Hall. Uh,
Careful
well,
how you say it. Careful how you say it.
I know it's a tricky one. How do you say it?
Well, it doesn't work in my accent because I'm Irish. So I say Fackham Hall, and people go, well, "Why is that funny?" And then a Cockney guy comes along and says Fackham Hall, and we go, "Oh, I see."
What was sort of the coming together, the moment with you and Jimmy Carr as far as, he wrote this thing, brings you on board to direct it. What was sort of the mission that he set out with you that you guys developed for this?
I'm quite a big fan of period dramas. I love Gosford Park. It was a sort of formative movie for me. I thought it was fantastic. And so we wanted to do something that was affectionate, but also poked a lot of fun at the sort of slight pompousness of some British period movies, of the sort of taking themselves very seriously, of the kind of intensity, even though they're sometimes slightly silly stories, everyone plays it as if it's Shakespeare. So we wanted to do a sort of affectionate parody. And my thing always was I wanted to play it straight. I had this idea which I pitched to the guys, and I said, I think it'd be great if when you come and watch this for the first time, say with the sound down, if you had the sound down, you would think you were watching the latest $50 million lavish British period drama. And then you would go, did I just see two sumo wrestlers in the back of shot there? Or was that a stag that just fell out of the sky? So the idea was it would be played so straight that the ridiculousness would then juxtapose against that, and that's where a lot of the comedy would lie.
Yeah, and that's something that really kind of harkens back to Airplane, where we had these very serious actors suddenly now playing it silly, that you can't really show your hand at all. So that sounds like that was sort of your mission as
So,
well.
so that was in the casting. Then it's very important. So Jimmy Carr, who does play a part in it, is the only comedian really in the movie. We've got a lot of actors who know about comedy and they get comedy, but I wanted to cast serious actors. We thought, like, if you saw Damian Lewis and Catherine Waterstone and Tom Felton and Thomason McKenzie in the real version of a British period drama, you'd go, great. These are the right people to play Lord Davenport and Lady Davenport. So I wanted to cast it almost as if it was the real thing, but they needed to know where the comedy lay. And the comedy lay in how seriously they played it. If there's any comic exaggeration, it's in how seriously they take it, how straight-faced, how, they're not winking at the camera, they're not smiling, they're not going, this is ridiculous, what's going on around me. And that's where the comedy lies. So the casting was very important.
Right, because that would break the illusion automatically if they gave you the
Totally. If you
wink.
start to see funny comedians, you go, "Oh, this is comedy." I wanted it to look like a straight version of it.
Who amongst your cast slipped into that the easiest, almost with an uncanny ability?
You know what? I mean, they all did, to be fair, but to single out Tom Felton, I remember his first day on set, and he said to me, "So, boss, are we doing this? We're just doing it dead straight." And I said, "Yeah, dead straight. No, no winking, no smiling, nothing." I thought, okay, let's do it. And he did one line. He had to say a line. There's a funny line where Lord Davenport mentions all the terrible things that have happened to him and humiliates him basically in public. And Tom just had to say, "Thank you, Lord Davenport. That's very thoughtful of you." And he just did it with such a deadpan, straight face. He brought the house down in one line, and I went, "Oh, he's got it in a line." So he was a surprise to me.
Why does silly, and I say this in a complimentary way, why does silly work in 2025? Why is it something we even maybe need right now?
Well, because look at the state of the world. It's cost of living. There's wars across the world. The world is a serious place right now, and I think 2 hours of silliness is almost exactly what the world needs. We are just having fun and telling joke after joke after joke. We've got a variety of jokes, from visual jokes to double entendres to puns to highbrow jokes. Funny joke about the Bechdel sisters and the famous Bechdel test. We've got political jokes. We've got daft jokes. I think 2 hours of that is exactly what the world needs right now. And it doesn't work so well, I think, silly in silly times. It works really well in serious times.
I did like the Bechdel joke when
Good.
that one caught me off guard, honestly. Were there any bits that that you thought maybe your American audience may not get?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got the kind of the place name jokes. So there's a joke about Blackpool and Skegness, and they may not work necessarily for American audiences. Although I think you'll get the vibe, which is these are not places you want to be going and hanging out for your honeymoon. Certainly, they're slightly, with best respect to those places, a little bit down at heel now. So we worried maybe a little bit that wouldn't work. But mostly, I think you tell me. I think most of the jokes probably translated because, yeah, they're all silly and quite universal. And of course, people have seen the Downton Abbeys. We've all seen them, so we all know the kind of tropes of these kind of films.
Yeah.
And so that translates. So I don't think there's very much culturally specific humor.
I, I
Um,
I did pick up on the Blackpool joke simply because I've been to Blackpool, so that one
okay,
I
yeah,
understood. But the for you, I mean, being Irish, and I know you've worked, a lot within English TV, but
yeah.
being Irish, is there a specific gear shift that you have to do as a director and your storytelling with regards to this kind of humor? Because the Downton Abbey, British sensibility is very different than the Irish sensibility and the storytelling and the humor. So the gear shift there.
Well, I think, in a way, I was sort of ideally placed for this because I've lived in the UK for 20, 30 years and I've, studied there and I've directed most of my working life there, but I still have that slight distance of being Irish. So I was able to sort of look at it as a slight outsider. And so, we have a lot of jokes about the class system and we've a lot of jokes. One of the things I felt was interesting about these films is they accept the class system of those times very unquestioningly and present it as if everybody, all the servants were very happy just being paid very little and, working their fingers to the bone and that they were just jolly, like the sort of slaves singing in the cotton fields. And so one of the things we wanted to do was highlight how appallingly some of those workers and servants were treated. So we have this fantastic Lord Davenport's manservant, Alexander, who literally picks his nose for him and drinks his tea for him and becomes his chair. So I had a slight outside eye where I was able to sort of look at, British society affectionately and particularly in those period times, 1930s, affectionately, but with a very, with a comic edge, I suppose, as well, a comic squint at it.
Yeah, I did love the manservant bit. Just
Yeah,
just
he's great.
finally, I mean, in addition to the the humor, which you're playing straight, it looks great. This is a great looking
Great,
film,
thank
and
you.
it really looks accurate. And I could tell you were striving for that accuracy. Talk a little bit about that, but also how you're telling this comedic movie, but then you have to get the details right as well, which is a whole separate challenge, it seems like.
Yeah, I know it was honestly, it was a huge challenge because I was saying to people, if you were doing Downton Abbey tends not to have pratfalls, fight scenes, chase scenes, shooting scenes. There's one scene, for example, where Mrs. McAllister and Eric are walking down the corridor, and you shoot that in a steady cam single, and you might do one from behind. If that was Downton Abbey, you'd move on after those two shots. We had to have a stunt in the background. We had to have a guy falling down a manhole that wasn't actually there because you can make a hole in the ground in these beautiful period houses. So that then involves building a whole other set where you had to, have the guy there because he gets his head stamped on. Then we had to get a stunt guy and set all that up. Then we had to do plates of the actual corridor. So every scene became doing the real version, if you like, as you would do in Downton Abbey, and four or five other shots because there's a stunt or there's a gag or there's a background joke happening, or there's a detailed insert that you have to do, like the photograph that he tears that makes a funny name when he tears it. So it was a real challenge to keep the production values looking as beautiful as a sort of 50 million pounds, British period drama. Trust me, we did not have 50 million pounds. We had about 6 or 7. So we were trying to make it as beautiful as that, because I felt that the real comedy would be in it looking and feeling and smelling and having the texture of a beautiful period drama while being utterly silly at the same time. So it was a huge challenge.
Right on. All right, Jim, that's our time. But thank you again for chatting and yeah, great fun. Fackham Hall, right?
Feck 'em
But
all, exactly. Feck 'em all. Thanks very much, Aaron.